The warning lights painted the bridge of the Stellar Harmony an angry red. Captain Veltara's long fingers moved across the control panel, but each touch brought only more bad news. The quantum drive was dead, life support was failing, and they were floating in empty space millions of miles from the nearest planet. "How long do we have?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear growing in her chest. Dr. Kesara looked up from her engineering station. Her blue skin had turned pale, almost white. 12 hours, maybe 14 if we shut down all non-essential systems. The solar flare fried our main power core. We're running on backup power now. Veltara closed her eyes for a moment. The dying star had thrown out massive bursts of energy without warning. Their ship's shields had protected them from radiation, but the electromagnetic pulse had destroyed their most important systems. Now they were drifting like a piece of space junk. "Any ships in range?" she asked. Communications Officer Thrick shook his head. His forearms worked quickly over his console, sending out signals in every direction. "The nearest Zephyrian patrol is 6 days away. The Korthans have a trading vessel in this sector, but they're 4 days out." "Too far." Veltara looked around the bridge at her crew. They had been studying the humans for 3 months now, watching their primitive ships crawl between planets at slow speeds. The research project was meant to understand how such a young species had spread to so many worlds despite their basic technology. The humans fascinated her. They were violent and chaotic, but also strangely creative. They built machines that barely worked, held together with simple materials and hope. Their ships looked like flying scrap piles compared to the elegant vessels of older civilizations. Yet somehow they kept expanding, kept exploring, kept surviving in ways that made no scientific sense. "Captain," Thrick said quietly, "there is one more option." "What?" "The humans. I'm detecting several human vessels in nearby systems. One appears to be a cargo ship, maybe 3 hours away at their maximum speed." Dr. Kesara made a sound of disbelief. "The humans, Captain. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their ships can barely reach half the speed of light. How could they possibly help us?" Veltara stared at the star map floating above her console. The human ship showed as a small yellow dot, moving slowly but steadily toward their position. According to their databases, human vessels were poorly armed, poorly shielded, and held together with what humans called duct tape and prayer. "They won't even understand our distress signal," Kesara continued. "Their communication systems are primitive electromagnetic broadcasts. They probably don't even know we exist." "Galactic law requires us to signal on all frequencies," Veltara said slowly, "including primitive ones." Thrick nodded. "I can modify our distress beacon to transmit on human radio frequencies. But, Captain, even if they receive it, what could they do? Their ships aren't designed for deep space rescue. They don't have the equipment to repair quantum drives or life support systems." Veltara felt the ship shudder slightly as another system failed. The air was getting thinner. Soon, they would have to choose between heating and oxygen production. In 12 hours, maybe less, they would all be dead. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Captain?" Kesara stood up from her station. "Surely you're not serious. Contact with primitive species is strictly forbidden by the Galactic Council. We could lose our research permits, our careers, everything." "What careers?" Veltara asked. "What permits?" "We'll be dead in 12 hours. Thrick's hands moved over his controls. "Signal ready, Captain. Broadcasting on all human radio frequencies. Do it." The message went out in waves of electromagnetic energy, the kind of simple signal that humans had been using for centuries. Thrick had programmed the universal translator to convert their words into basic human language, though he wasn't sure it would work properly. "This is the research vessel Stellar Harmony," the signal said. "We are experiencing critical system failure and require immediate assistance. Our position is..." The coordinates followed, along with basic information about their situation. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of failing systems and the occasional beep of warning alarms. Veltara found herself holding her breath, though she knew it was foolish. Even if the humans received their message, even if they understood it, what could they do? Minutes passed. Then an hour. Thrick kept adjusting the signal, boosting its power, trying different frequencies. The oxygen level in the ship continued to drop. Dr. Kesara worked desperately to squeeze more life from their dying systems. "Maybe they didn't receive it," Kesara said. "Or maybe they're ignoring it. Would you respond to a distress call from an unknown ship using impossible technology?" Veltara was about to order Thrix to stop broadcasting when his console came alive with sound. Static filled the bridge, mixed with the strange rhythms of human speech. Thrix worked quickly to clean up the signal. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth cargo hauler Lucky Strike." The voice was female, calm, and completely matter-of-fact. "We're reading your distress signal loud and clear. Can't say I recognize your ship design from the scanner readings, but that doesn't matter much right now. Hold tight, we're coming for you." The bridge erupted in surprised chatter, but Veltara raised her hand for silence. She stared at the communication panel as if it might disappear. "Did she just—" Kesara started. "She's coming to help us," Veltara finished. A primitive human with a cargo ship is coming to help us." Thrix adjusted his controls. "Captain, should I respond?" "What do we tell her?" Veltara thought quickly. The human captain had sounded confident, professional even. She wasn't panicking or asking a million questions about who they were or where they came from. She was simply responding to someone in trouble. "Tell her we accept her assistance," Veltara said. "And Thrix, thank her." The message went out and Chen's response came back quickly. "Copy that, Stellar Harmony. E-Day approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes. We're pushing the engines pretty hard, so don't give up on us. I've seen worse situations than this." As the communication ended, Dr. Kesara shook her head in amazement. She didn't even ask what species we are. Didn't ask about our technology or our weapons or our intentions. She just decided to help. "Maybe that's why they spread so fast," Veltara said quietly. "While we calculate risks and follow protocols, they just act." The next 2 hours crawled by like days. Systems continued to fail throughout the ship. The heating system died completely, leaving them in the cold darkness of space. The oxygen recyclers sputtered and wheezed, producing barely enough air to breathe. But for the first time since the solar flare hit them, Veltara felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Somewhere in the darkness, a human ship was racing toward them, piloted by someone who had never met them, but was willing to risk her life to save theirs. When Thrix announced that he could see the human ship on their sensors, the entire bridge crew gathered around the display. The Lucky Strike looked exactly like what they expected from human engineering. A boxy, ungainly thing covered in patches and modifications. It moved through space like a flying toolbox, but it was the most beautiful sight Veltara had ever seen. "Stellar Harmony, this is Captain Chen. I'm going to need you to prepare for docking procedures. Fair warning though, this might get a little creative." Captain Chen's ship looked nothing like the sleek vessels in Zephyrian databases. The Lucky Strike was a collection of metal boxes held together with welds and hope. Patches covered holes in the hull. Strange additions stuck out at odd angles. It looked like someone had built a spaceship in their backyard using spare parts, but it was moving toward them with steady confidence. "She wants to dock with us," Thrix reported, his voice uncertain. "But Captain, our docking systems are completely dead. No power, no magnetic clamps, no guidance systems." Veltara studied the approaching human ship. "What's she planning to do?" "I don't know. Human docking procedures aren't in our databases. Their technology is so different from ours." Dr. Kesara pulled up technical scans of the Lucky Strike. "Their ship has no quantum systems at all. Everything runs on fusion power and chemical thrusters. Look at this, they're using metal cables and mechanical systems for docking. It's like something from a museum." Chen's voice crackled over the radio again. "Okay, folks, here's what we're going to do. I can see your docking bay, but your systems are dark. No problem. I've got some heavy-duty magnetic grapples and enough cargo netting to wrap a small moon. We'll make our own docking system." "Cargo netting," Kesara repeated in disbelief. On the view screen, they watched the human ship approach their disabled vessel. Instead of the smooth, automated docking they were used to, Captain Chen was flying manually. Her ship jerked and adjusted course in small bursts, getting closer inch by inch. "She's flying that thing by hand," Thrix whispered. "No computer assistance at all. Stellar Harmony, I need you to open your cargo bay doors manually if you can. I'm going to thread the needle here." Veltara looked at her crew. Opening the doors manually would let out what little atmosphere they had left in the cargo bay. But they were running out of air anyway. "Do it," she ordered. The massive doors of their cargo bay slowly ground open, revealing the star-filled darkness beyond. The Lucky Strike positioned itself carefully outside the bay, and suddenly metal cables shot out from the human ship. They attached to the frame of the cargo bay with loud clanging sounds that rang through the hull. "First part's done," Chen announced cheerfully. "Now for the fun part." What happened next would have given any Zephyrian engineer nightmares. The human ship began unreeling enormous amounts of heavy netting around both vessels, wrapping them together like a package. Magnetic clamps held the netting in place while Chen's crew worked outside in spacesuits, adjusting connections and tightening cables. "This is completely insane," Kessera muttered, watching the procedure. "There are no safety protocols, no backup systems, no computer modeling. She's just making it up as she goes along, but somehow it worked." Within an hour, the two ships were firmly connected by a web of cables and netting. The human ship's airlocks lined up with their cargo bay, sealed by what looked like inflatable tubes. "Pressurization complete," Chen reported. "Atmosphere looks good on both sides." "Permission to come aboard?" Veltara realized her hands were shaking. In all her years of space travel, she had never seen anything like what the human captain had just accomplished. It was crude, improvised, and completely outside every safety regulation in the book. It was also brilliant. "Permission granted," she said. The first human stepped through the makeshift airlock, and Veltara got her first close look at one of the species they had been studying. Captain Chen was shorter than any Zephyrian, built solid and compact. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her clothes were practical work gear covered in oil stains and tool marks. She looked around the cargo bay with professional interest, noting the alien technology without any sign of fear or confusion. Behind her came two more humans, a tall man with graying hair and a young woman who couldn't stop staring at everything. "Jake's my engineer," Chen said, pointing to the older man. "And this is Ravi, who handles communications and about 6 other jobs. I'm Sarah." She extended her hand in what their databases said was a human greeting gesture. Veltara tentatively reached out and touched the human's hand. Chen's grip was firm and warm. "You folks look like you've had a rough day." Chen continued, studying the Zephyrian crew with sharp eyes. "No offense, but you don't look anything like the humans we usually run into out here." Dr. Kessera stepped forward nervously. "Captain Chen, we should explain. We are not human. Our species is called Zephyrian. We were conducting research in this system when the solar flare damaged our ship." Chen nodded as if this was perfectly normal news. "Figured as much. Your ship's way too fancy for human engineering, and that distress signal was using tech we won't have for another 50 years. Plus, you're all blue and about a foot taller than anyone I've ever met." Jake, the engineer, was already studying their damaged systems. "Quantum drive failure," he announced. "Power cores completely fried. Life support's running on fumes." He looked at Chen. "This is beyond anything we can fix properly, Sarah. Their technology is decades ahead of ours." "Maybe," Chen said. "But broken is broken, no matter how fancy the tech is. And sometimes the old ways work just fine." She turned to Veltara. "Mind if we take a look around? I've got some ideas." As they walked through the ship, Veltara found herself amazed by the human captain's confidence. Chen examined their quantum drive with the same calm attention she might give a broken coffee machine. She asked practical questions about power flow and system connections, ignoring the complex theoretical science behind the technology. "Your people build beautiful ships," Chen said, running her hand along a smooth control panel. "Everything's elegant, efficient, designed to work perfectly. But when something breaks, it's very difficult to repair," Kessera admitted. "Each component is precisely engineered to work with every other component. We need exact replacement parts." "Right," Chen said. "We build things differently. Our stuff breaks all the time, so we make it easy to fix. We use parts that can do double duty, systems that work even when they're not perfect." She paused in front of the main power coupling. "Question is, can we make your perfect systems work with our imperfect solutions?" Jake was studying a power distribution panel, his gray head shaking slowly. "Sarah, this thing runs on controlled quantum reactions. We're talking about energies that could vaporize our entire ship." "But energy is energy," Chen replied. "And we've got a perfectly good fusion reactor sitting right next door. Question is whether we can get these systems to talk to each other." Ravi, the young communications officer, looked nervous. "Captain, are you seriously thinking about connecting our fusion reactor to their quantum systems? Isn't that like trying to power a computer with a lightning bolt?" Chen grinned. "Kid, I once kept a mining station running for 6 months using a fusion reactor, 3 backup generators, and a hydroelectric turbine all wired together with spare cable. Sometimes you use what you've got. Veltara watched the exchange with growing amazement. Where her crew saw impossible technical challenges, the humans saw interesting puzzles. Where Zephyrians calculated risks and followed safety protocols, humans seemed to calculate possibilities and trust their instincts. "Can it be done?" she asked. Chen looked around the engineering bay, taking in the alien technology with an expression of thoughtful consideration. "Well, Captain, I've seen crazier things work. The real question is whether you're willing to let a bunch of primitive humans rewire your fancy spaceship with duct tape and determination." For the first time in hours, Veltara found herself smiling. "At this point, Captain Chen, I'm willing to try anything." Jake pulled a battered toolbox from the human ship and set it down in the Zephyrian engineering bay. The contrast was startling. The sleek alien technology surrounded by worn human tools that looked like they had been used to build half the galaxy. "First things first," Chen said. "Studying the quantum drive housing. We need to get you basic power before your life support gives out completely." "Jake, what do you think about running a power feed from our fusion reactor?" Jake scratched his gray beard and examined the Zephyrian power couplings. "It's doable, but we'll need to step down the voltage about 1,000 times. Their systems expect clean, stable quantum energy. Our reactor puts out raw fusion power that changes every microsecond." Dr. Cassara stepped forward, her blue face showing clear alarm. "You cannot connect primitive fusion energy directly to quantum systems. The power fluctuations alone could destroy what's left of our ship." "Who said anything about direct connection?" Chen asked, pulling out what looked like a collection of metal boxes and cables from Jake's toolbox. "We're going to build a buffer system. Think of it like a translator between our language and yours." Ravi was already unrolling thick power cables from their ship. "I've got enough heavy-duty line to reach their main power distribution center. But Captain, even with buffers, this is going to be rough power. Not the clean energy their systems were designed for." "Clean energy doesn't help if you're dead," Chen replied. She turned to Veltara. "Captain, I need you to understand something. What we're about to do goes against every safety protocol your people probably have. We're going to jury-rig connections, bypass safety systems, and make your ship run on power it was never designed to handle." Veltara looked around at her crew's frightened faces, then at the human captain's confident expression. "What choice do we have?" "None," Chen said simply. "But that's okay. Some of the best solutions come from having no choice." Jake was already working, pulling panels off the Zephyrian power systems with casual efficiency. "Sarah, look at this. Their whole system is designed around fail-safes and redundancies. Every connection has 3 backup systems and safety protocols that would shut everything down if the power quality drops even slightly. So we bypass them," Chen said, handing him a device that looked like it was built from spare parts. "This is a power conditioner I built for the mining station job. It takes any kind of energy input and smooths it out. Not perfect, but good enough." Kessera watched in horror as the humans began connecting crude devices to her precisely engineered systems. "You're bypassing critical safety systems. If something goes wrong, the feedback could destroy both ships. If we don't do this, you'll all be dead in 4 hours anyway," Jake pointed out, not looking up from his work. "Sometimes you have to choose between safe and alive." Chen was studying the life support systems now, tracing power lines with her fingers. "Ravi, I need you to reroute our atmospheric processors. We're going to create a shared life support system between both ships." "Shared life support?" Thrix looked confused. "How is that possible? Our systems use completely different atmospheric standards." "Easy," Ravi said, pulling out more equipment from the seemingly endless human toolbox. "We equalize the atmosphere between both ships, then run everything through our scrubbers and recyclers. Our systems are designed to handle all kinds of atmospheric conditions. We work on planets with different air mixtures all the time." The young human began connecting flexible tubes between the two ships' ventilation systems. Like everything the humans did, it looked improvised and temporary, but it worked. Fresh air began flowing through the Zephyrian ship for the first time in hours. "There," Chen said with satisfaction. "That should buy us time to work on the bigger problems." Dr. Cassara examined the human modifications with growing amazement and terror. Nothing they were doing should work according to Zephyrian engineering principles. The power converters were crude, the connections were temporary, and the safety bypasses violated every regulation in the book. But the lights were getting brighter. The air was getting fresher. Systems that had been dying were slowly coming back to life. I don't understand, Cassara said. Your modifications are completely outside established engineering practices. The power flow is unstable. The connections are temporary. The safety margins are completely inadequate. Jake looked up from where he was connecting another improvised device. Doc, established engineering practices are great when you have time, proper parts, and a fully equipped workshop. Out here you work with what you've got. But how do you know it will work? We don't, Chen admitted cheerfully. But we know it might work, and that's better than knowing it definitely won't. She moved to another section of the engineering bay where the quantum drive sat dead and cold. Now for the real challenge. Jake, think we can get this thing running again? Jake studied the complex mechanism with professional interest. Well, the quantum containment field is intact, which is good news. The bad news is that the initiation system is completely fried. We'd need quantum field generators to restart it properly. Which we don't have, Chen said. Which we don't have, Jake agreed. But... He pulled out a device that looked like it had been built in someone's garage. I've got this electromagnetic field generator. It's not nearly powerful enough to initiate quantum reactions, but it might be able to jumpstart their system if we can boost the power enough. Cassara stared at the crude device. That's impossible. Quantum drives require precisely controlled field dynamics. You cannot just jumpstart them like a ground vehicle. Can't hurt to try, Chen said. Worst case scenario, nothing happens. Best case, we get you mobile again. Worst case scenario, we create an uncontrolled quantum reaction that destroys both ships, Cassara corrected. Chen paused in her work and looked directly at the Zephyrian engineer. Doc, I appreciate your concerns, I really do. But right now doing nothing guarantees that you all die in a few hours. Trying something that might work gives you a chance to live. Which would you choose? Cassara looked around at her crewmates, all watching the discussion with frightened but hopeful expressions. She thought about her family back on Zephyria, about the research they had been conducting, about all the things she would never see again if they didn't find a way off this dying ship. What do you need me to do? She asked quietly. Chen smiled. Help us understand your systems well enough to not blow them up. We'll handle the rest. The next several hours were unlike anything in Cassara's engineering experience. The humans worked with a casual confidence that terrified and amazed her. They treated the quantum drive like a stubborn machine that just needed the right encouragement. They connected their crude devices to sophisticated Zephyrian systems with an attitude that suggested this kind of improvisation was routine. And slowly, impossibly, it began to work. Power levels are stabilizing, Thrix reported from the bridge. Life support is fully operational. Structural integrity systems are back online. Atmospheric processors are running at 90% efficiency, Ravi added from where he was monitoring the combined life support systems. We've got clean air for both crews. Jake was making final adjustments to the quantum drive system. Sarah, I think we're ready to try starting this thing up. Fair warning. If this doesn't work, we're going to have a very brief but spectacular light show. Chen nodded. Everyone ready? Doc, you might want to say a prayer to whatever gods your people believe in. Cassara found herself holding her breath as Jake activated the electromagnetic field generator. The crude human device hummed and sparked, pouring raw energy into the delicate quantum systems. Every instinct she had screamed that this should not work. The quantum drive flickered to life. We have quantum field initiation, Thrix announced, his voice filled with disbelief. The drive is coming online. It's rough, but it's working. Chen wiped her hands on her coveralls and grinned. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Your ship's not pretty right now, but she'll get you home. Cassara stared at the displays showing their systems running on improvised human modifications. Everything was working, despite violating every engineering principle she had ever learned. How? She whispered. Practice, Chen said simply. When you fix things for a living, you learn that working solutions beat perfect theories every time. With basic systems restored, both crews gathered in the Zephyrian ship's main conference room. The space was elegant and peaceful, designed for calm scientific discussion. The humans looked completely out of place among the flowing curves and soft lighting, but they didn't seem to mind. Okay, Chen said, spreading a holographic star chart across the table. You've got power and life support, but that quantum drive is barely holding together. My guess is it'll get you maybe halfway to your nearest base before it gives out again. Veltara studied the display. Our closest facility is the research station at Kepler 442. It's 12 days away at full quantum speed. Which you don't have, Jake pointed out. At the power levels your drive can handle right now, you're looking at 3 weeks minimum, and that's assuming nothing else breaks. Dr. Kesara ran calculations on her portable computer. Our food supplies would last that long, but barely. And if any other systems fail during the journey... She didn't finish the sentence. There is another option, Chen said slowly. It's crazy, but it might work. What do you have in mind? Veltara asked. Chen manipulated the star chart, highlighting a different destination. Orbital Station 7. It's a human facility, but it's only 4 days away even at your reduced speed. They've got full repair facilities and can handle any kind of ship. Thrix looked confused. But Captain Chen, that would mean revealing our existence to your people. Contact with primitive species is strictly forbidden by our laws. Primitive? Ravi laughed. Lady, you just had your lives saved by primitive humans using primitive technology. Maybe it's time to rethink your definitions. Chen held up a hand to stop the argument before it started. Look, I understand this is complicated for you. But dead is dead no matter what your laws say. The station chief is a friend of mine, Captain Rodriguez. She's good people and she won't ask questions she doesn't need answers to. Veltara considered the options. Follow the law and risk death, or break the greatest taboo in Zephyrian culture and accept help from a species they considered primitive. There's a third option, Jake said suddenly. What if we don't go to the station at all? Everyone turned to look at the human engineer. He was studying the technical readouts from both ships with an expression of growing excitement. What are you thinking? Chen asked. I'm thinking about the mining station job again. Remember how we linked all those different power systems together? What if we did something similar here, but bigger? Jake stood up and began pacing around the room, his hands moving as he explained his idea. Both ships have working fusion reactors now. The Lucky Strike has a solid engine system and good structural integrity. The Stellar Harmony has quantum technology and better life support systems. I don't follow, Kesara said. We combine them, Jake said simply. Not temporarily like we did for the rescue, but permanently. We create one ship using the best parts of both. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Chen was the first to speak. That's actually not completely insane, she said slowly. We'd basically be building a new ship using parts from 2 old ones. It's been done before, Ravi added. Remember the colony ship New Horizon? They built that by linking 3 different vessels together and flew it for 20 years. Kesara shook her head. The engineering challenges would be enormous. Our ships use completely different technologies, different materials, different design principles. But we've already proven they can work together, Jake pointed out. Your quantum systems are running on power from our fusion reactor right now. Our life support is handling atmosphere for both crews. Chen pulled up technical specifications for both ships on the holographic display. Let's think about this seriously. What would we need to make it work? Structural integration, Jake said immediately. We'd need to physically join the ships in a way that can handle stress and acceleration. Power distribution, Ravi added. We'd need a way to share energy between all systems efficiently. Navigation and control systems, Thrix said, getting caught up in the technical challenge despite himself. How would we pilot a hybrid ship? Veltara watched her crew discussing the idea with growing animation. Even Kesara was starting to contribute suggestions, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. It would take weeks to design properly, Kesara said. Computer modeling, stress analysis, safety testing, or, Chen said with a grin, we could do what humans do and figure it out as we go along. That's your solution to everything, Kesara said. But she was almost smiling. It's worked so far, Chen replied. Besides, we've got 2 crews of engineers and all the time we need. The Lucky Strike has a full machine shop, and your ship has fabrication systems that can make anything we design. Jake was already sketching ideas on a portable tablet. We'd start by extending the docking framework we already built. Make it permanent, then add structural supports throughout both ships. The quantum drive could be integrated with our fusion engines, Ravi suggested. Use the fusion reactor to power the quantum initiation systems, then let the quantum drive handle the actual propulsion. Life support would be easy, Thrix said. We already have shared atmospheric systems working. Veltara looked around the table at the enthusiastic faces of both crews. This is madness. We're talking about creating a ship that has never been designed, never been tested, using technologies that were never meant to work together. Yes, Chen said simply. Isn't it great? Despite herself, Veltara found the idea appealing. Not just because it might save their lives, but because it represented something new. A collaboration between species that had never worked together before. How long would it take? She asked. Jake and Kessara looked at each other, then began rapid calculations on their computers. With both crews working together, maybe a week for basic integration, Kessara said. Another week for testing and refinement. 2 weeks, Chen mused. We've got supplies for that long and both ships are stable now. But what about after? Veltara asked. Even if we build this hybrid ship, where would we go? I can't return to Zephyrian space in a vessel that violates every engineering standard we have. And I can't exactly show up at a human port with an alien quantum drive bolted to my ship, Chen added. Ravi looked up from his calculations. Maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is creating something new that doesn't belong to either of our peoples. A ship for explorers, Jake said slowly, built by 2 species working together. A ship that goes where no one else can go, Thrix added, his eyes bright with possibility. Chen leaned back in her chair and looked around the table. So we're really doing this? Building a ship that probably shouldn't exist using technologies that shouldn't work together? Yes, Veltara said, surprising herself with her certainty. Yes, we are. Well then, Chen said, standing up and extending her hand to the Zephyrian captain. Partner, let's build something impossible. Veltara took the human's hand and felt the warm strength of her grip. For the first time since the solar flare had crippled their ship, she felt genuinely excited about the future. Let's build something impossible, she agreed. 2 weeks later, the ship formerly known as the Stellar Harmony and the Lucky Strike had become something entirely new. The elegant curves of Zephyrian design flowed seamlessly into the practical angles of human engineering, creating a vessel that looked like it had grown rather than been built. Veltara stood on the bridge, a combination of both ships' command centers, and marveled at what they had accomplished. Holographic displays showed Zephyrian star charts while human-built controls managed fusion power systems. The quantum drive hummed in harmony with chemical thrusters, creating a propulsion system that could outperform either ship's original capabilities. Final systems check complete, Jake announced from the engineering station. All connections are solid, power distribution is stable, and the quantum fusion hybrid drive is ready for testing. Life support is running at 110% efficiency, Ravi added. The combined atmospheric processors are actually working better together than either system did alone. Dr. Kessara looked up from her station with an expression of amazed satisfaction. Structural integrity is excellent throughout the ship. The integration points are actually stronger than the original hull sections. Chen emerged from the captain's quarters, a space they now shared, with furniture from both ships creating an odd but comfortable mixture of styles. Ready for our first real test flight? Veltara nodded. Where to, Captain? Co-captain, Chen corrected with a smile. And I was thinking we should go somewhere neither of our peoples has been before. She activated the navigation display, showing a star system at the edge of explored space. Gliese 3021. It's got planets that might support life, but it's too far for normal human ships and too dangerous for Zephyrian exploration protocols. Perfect, Veltara said. A destination worthy of our impossible ship. Thrix engaged the quantum drive, but instead of the smooth acceleration typical of Zephyrian vessels, the ship leaped forward with human enthusiasm. The fusion engines kicked in moments later, adding their power to the quantum field and pushing them faster than either ship had ever traveled before. Speed is, well, this is interesting, Thrix said, staring at his instruments. We're traveling at nearly twice quantum normal velocity, but using only 60% of our power capacity. The fusion boost is amplifying the quantum field, Kessara explained, her voice filled with scientific excitement. The two systems are creating a resonance effect that multiplies our efficiency. Jake laughed from his position at the engineering console. In other words, our crazy idea is working better than we thought it would. As they settled into their journey, both crews found their routines blending together. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side, sharing techniques and perspectives that enhanced everything they did. The ship's efficiency continued to improve as they discovered new ways to integrate their technologies. On the third day of travel, Chen called everyone to the main conference room. "I've been thinking about what happens after we reach Gliesa 3021, she said. "Both our governments are going to want explanations for what we've done here." Veltara had been wondering the same thing. The Zephyrian Council will be displeased by our contact with a primitive species and our modification of council property. The human authorities won't be thrilled about unauthorized contact with aliens either, Chen added. "Plus, technically, I've just vanished with a registered cargo vessel. So what do we do?" Ravi asked. "We keep exploring," Jake said simply. "This ship represents something new, a collaboration between species. Maybe it's time both our peoples learned that we're not alone in the galaxy." Thrix nodded enthusiastically. "The scientific opportunities are incredible. Think of what we could discover working together." "Think of what we've already discovered," Kesara added. "Our efficiency improvements alone could revolutionize space travel for both species." Chen looked around the table at the mixed crew that had become a family over the past few weeks. "So we're agreed? We keep going, keep exploring, and figure out the politics later?" "Agreed," Veltara said. "But first, let's see what's waiting for us at Gliesa 3021. The star system exceeded all their expectations. 3 planets showed signs of primitive life, while a 4th had atmospheric conditions that could support both human and Zephyrian colonists. The discovery alone would have justified years of conventional exploration. But what made their success truly special was how they achieved it. Human intuition guided them to the most promising sites, while Zephyrian instruments gathered data with unprecedented precision. The combined crew worked with an efficiency that neither species could have achieved alone. "You know," Chen said as they completed their survey of the 4th planet, "I was wrong about something." "What's that?" Veltara asked. "When I first answered your distress call, I thought we were just 2 different species helping each other out. But we're not different at all, are we? We're all just people trying to understand the universe and find our place in it." Veltara considered this as she watched her crew working alongside the humans with easy familiarity. "Perhaps that's why this ship works so well. We're not trying to make human technology work like Zephyrian technology, or vice versa. We're letting both be what they are and finding the harmony between them." "Speaking of harmony," Ravi said from the communication station, "I'm picking up a signal. Long range, very faint." "What kind of signal?" Chen asked. "It's another distress call. Much weaker than yours was, Captain Veltara. But definitely artificial." Thrix checked his instruments. "The signal is coming from beyond the edge of this system. At least a week's travel at normal quantum speed. But only 3 days for us," Jake pointed out with a grin. Chen and Veltara looked at each other and shared the same thought. Their impossible ship had been born from one species answering another's call for help. Perhaps it was fitting that their first mission should be another rescue. "Set course for the signal," Chen ordered. "All hands, prepare for quantum fusion acceleration," Veltara added. As their hybrid ship leaped toward the unknown, both captains felt the satisfaction of knowing they had found their purpose. They were explorers, rescuers, and proof that the galaxy was full of people ready to help each other, if they were just willing to listen. 3 days later, they found the source of the distress signal, a damaged ship from a species neither humans nor Zephyrians had ever encountered. The beings inside were small, insectoid, and absolutely terrified when the strange hybrid vessel appeared on their sensors. "Unknown vessel," came the translated transmission. "Please state your intentions. We have nothing of value and our weapons are inoperative." Chen smiled as she opened the communication channel. "This is Captain Chen of the exploration vessel Harmony's Strike. We received your distress call. What seems to be the problem?" You came to help us?" the alien voice asked in disbelief. "That's what we do," Veltara added from her position beside Chen. "We're explorers, and sometimes we help people who need it." As they prepared to assist their 3rd species in as many weeks, Jake looked around the bridge at his mixed crew of humans and Zephyrians working in perfect coordination. "You know," he said to Kesara, who was preparing their rescue equipment, "I think we're going to need a bigger ship." Kesara's blue face showed what humans were learning to recognize as a Zephyrian smile. "Then we'll build a bigger ship together." Outside the viewports, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions, full of possibilities and people waiting to be discovered. The Harmony's Strike flew toward its next adventure, carrying a crew that had learned the most important lesson in the galaxy. When someone calls for help, you answer.